So, right now, outside's over here asleep. You can see my messy house size right over there. Jerry and Annie is playing on the laptop, so I thought this would take a time to study out of this book here that Brother Michael let me borrow, if you can see that at all, from Nelson's New Illustrated Bible Dictionary. I've never used this before, but I'm going to now. My hair is aggravating me. I'm just going to read. Really need to just kind of lay the phone down, but I'm not going to. I'm going to just read. And I put my specs on now so I can see. And let's go from there. Isn't that lovely? Okay. It says, read the dictionary entry on the Bible book you are studying. And it's talking about Psalms 51 here. And I'm learning how to study. I'll actually start on step 1. I just have to forgive the way I look or whatever, because, it's about bedtime around here. Or for everybody else, at least. Okay. It says, bad about wrinkling my face up like that because I can't see. So, okay, I'm trying to get this. I really don't want to hold it, but I'm already 2 minutes in. Okay. Anyways. Alright, let's get going. It says, before opening your NNIBD, which is going to be the Nelson's New Illustrated Bible Dictionary, we benefit ourselves greatly if we first of all read carefully through the full text of the Bible passage we have chosen to study. It is important to pay attention to names, ideas, places, and events we might want to learn more about. Let's take Psalm 51 as a typical example of a medium-length passage to study. Let's also assume that we are using a copy of the Bible that contains no study notes, cross-references, or other helps. And let us further assume that we have available to us at the moment at least no reference works other than the NNIBD. Again, the NNIBD is going to be the Nelson's New Illustrated Bible Dictionary. Okay. Part 2, or step 2, is going to be read the dictionary entry on the Bible book you are studying. I'm totally new to studying the Bible. I know how to read a Bible, but I do not know how to study, and I want to learn more and more about God's Word. I want Him to speak to me through His text and through prayer and fasting and things of that nature, but I'm just learning how to study, so y'all just have to, I'm just trying to help someone else too that maybe does not know. I'm already 4 minutes. Looks like in there, yeah. Okay. I know I'm a weirdo. Trust me. Trust me. Excuse me. Mama. Okay. The second step is to read through the article entitled Psalms, book of, which will, I guess, be in this Bible dictionary. This will give us a brief overview of the book of Psalms. We will learn something about the structure of the book, as well as authorship, date, and historical setting of many of the Psalms themselves. The comprehensive study and teaching outline in the article will show that there are many different types of Psalms. Okay. With respect to Psalm 51, the outline tells us that it is usually classified as a psalm of lament. I believe it's how you say it, lament. Which I looked up, and that means like grief, sorrow, things of that nature. Excuse me, I've been sick. Okay. A quick check of the title of Psalm 51 will narrow the classification more specifically to Psalm of individual lament. In other words, the writer of Psalm 51 was in the midst of a sad, penitent, or mournful experience when the psalm was written. Very helpful right off the bat. That helps me. Okay. The title of Psalm 51 tells us that it is a Psalm of David, referring again to Psalms Book of in the NNIBD. We discover that 73, almost half of the 150 Psalms in the book include the name of David in their titles. We also see that the Hebrew word translated of in a Psalm of David can also mean to, perhaps implying a psalm dedicated to David, not necessarily written by David, I guess, or for, perhaps implying a psalm written for David, that is, on his behalf, according to this, and I'm pretty sure you can't see that, but nonetheless. Although the NNIBD, which is the book I'm reading out of, article takes the traditional position that 73 psalms containing David's name in their titles were in fact references to authorship. It presents alternative possibilities as well. Psalms Book of also informs us that some of the psalms written by David grew out of specific experience in his life. In addition to listing Psalm 51 as one such psalm, it also lists Psalms 3, 52, 54, 56, 57, and 59. A quick check of the titles of those psalms shows us that Psalm 3 is connected to David's flight from his son Absalom. I know the other day when I was reading, it was up to Psalm 5, I think. Maybe it was right after 5. It specifically said Psalm 5, let's just say it was 5. Psalm 5, the chief musician, Psalm of David, when he was fleeing his son, Absalom. And it was kind of a short chapter there. I think it might have been 4. Anyways, I got a great deal out of that. And because I wonder, why was he fleeing from Absalom, his son? I don't know that at this point. But it's all just tying together. When Brother Michael first gave me this book, I was just like, I was thankful because I know he had some material for me. But wow, it's just I was excited about the book. Don't get me wrong, this book I'm holding here. But I was thinking, oh Lord, I got to start. And I love to read. I like to read the Word. Some of it is boring to me, and that's just how it is. But I always pray, Lord, open my ears to where I can understand. Speak to me to where I can understand, because I don't take a hint. Will I need it? Just slap me right in the face, type deal. But this is really, as I'm sitting here reading this now for the first time, this part of the book, learning how to use it. It is pretty revealing. I'm learning as I'm recording this, what's becoming a long video. Okay. I'll start again. Shows us that Psalm 3 is connected to David's flight from his son Absalom. I hope I am pronouncing that correctly. And that the other 5 all had to do with the lengthy period in David's life when he was hiding from King Saul, whose insane jealousy made David the object of a series of search and destroy missions. Wow. Because David was hiding from him. And it almost seems like in Psalms, which, like I said, I'm very ignorant. Ignorant means a lack of knowledge when it comes to this Bible stuff, as to why things are done the way they're done and why things happen the way they happened. And it almost seems like Psalms is not, there's a lot of joy, like almost like rejoicing in Psalms that I've read, but it almost seems like there's a lot of sadness too, like, oh, help me, Lord, rebuke this, and a lot about enemies and stuff like that. So that makes a lot of sense. The title of Psalm 51, on the other hand, tells us that David wrote it when, in quote, when Nathan the prophet went to him after David had gone to Bathsheba. Okay, step number 3. Read the dictionary entries on all keywords. The third step to read. The third step is to read the entries on keywords from Psalm 51. 3 NNIBD articles, those on David, Nathan, and Bathsheba, give us background information on the all too brief statement found in the title of Psalm 51. And yes, I am reading. Okay. Not that you doubted that I wasn't, but anyways. And overlook the way that I'm just lounging around the house, so I'm not like dressed for no presentation or no. I just got the urge to do this, so that's what I'm doing. All right, moving on. The article of David summarizes the story of his sin of adultery with Bathsheba, his sin of having Bathsheba's husband, Uriah, I believe it's Uriah, killed in battle to cover up his adulterous act after Bathsheba becomes pregnant. Oh my. Nathan's rebuke of David, an announcement of divine judgment on him, and the subsequent death of the baby boy born to David and Bathsheba. It also refers to Psalm 51 as David's prayer. Okay. For forgiveness. A prayer for... let me repeat that. It also refers to Psalm 51 as David's prayer for forgiveness, which underscores the potential aspect of that particular psalm of lament. The article on Nathan provides information concerning the parable he told when he confronted David with his double sin. It also indicates that the story of the confrontation is recorded in 2 Samuel, verse 12, or 2 Samuel, chapter 12. My bad. Okay. The article on Bathsheba adds even more details, noting that the full account of the entire series of episodes is found in 2 Samuel 11 and 12. And reminding us that Bathsheba herself is mentioned indirectly in the genealogy of Jesus, which is found in Matthew 1 and 6. Okay, and this is step 4. I know this is lengthy. Okay, step 4 is to reread the Bible passage to note other features and words. The 4th step is to refer to background articles in NNIBD, the NNIBD article entitled Bible Interpretation of is especially recommended. Features such as literary form should also be investigated. Turning back to the first verse of Psalm 51, we observe immediately that it, together with the rest of the psalm, is in poetic form. The NNIBD article on poetry states that more than 1/3 of the Old Testament, about 40% of it in fact, was written as poetry. Well, wow, I didn't know that. Psalms and Proverbs, however, seem a little poetic to me. Not the whole Old Testament, but okay. The NNIBD article on poetry states that, okay, I just read that. Let me see. Most recent English versions of the Bible, including the New King James Version, set these sections in poetic form, like all of the other Psalms. Psalm 51 by its very nature is a poem. Okay. I'm trying now, right? There we go. I guess that's okay. The essential form of characteristic of Hebrew poetry is parallelism. The poetry article tells us the 3 main types of parallelism, in biblical poetry are synonymous. I'm having trouble with these words. Probably didn't even say that last one right. Antithetic and very synthetic. It then gives examples of each type, and among its examples of synonymous, parallelism, oh Lord, I'm having a time with that, which it defines as occurring when a parallel segment repeats an idea found in the previous segment. In Psalm 51, 2 and 3, it says, "Wash me thoroughly from my iniquity, and cleanse me from my sin. For I acknowledge my transgressions, and my sin is ever before me." Thank you, Lord. In other words, cleanse me from my sin repeats the thought of wash me thoroughly from my iniquity, and my sin is ever before me repeats the idea found in I acknowledge my transgressions. Oh boy. I just thank God for my desire to study His Word. I'm just thankful for that, because there's stuff that I've just read that's really touched on different things that's been happening with me. The NNIBD article on sin occupies most of a full page and provides us with rich insights into the dark background of sin and its reality. In the lives of people today, it defines sin as lawlessness or transgression of God's will, either by omitting to do what God's law requires or doing what it forbids. The article on transgression defines it as the violation of a law, command, or duty, and goes on to tell us the Hebrews word most often translated as transgression in the Old Testament means revolt or rebellion. Iniquity is defined as unrighteousness, lawlessness. The 3 NNIBD articles show us that all disobediences toward God, whether sin, transgression, or iniquity, is a violation of His law. Refusing to do what He commands. David uses several different words for sin as a way of emphasizing the enormity and seriousness of his rebellion against God. The iniquity article cites verses 2, 5, and 9 in Psalm 51 as 3 places in Psalm in which the word iniquity appears. In so doing, it calls our attention to another important Bible study technique, checking the passage to see how often, in what ways, its writer repeats keywords. Excuse me. Alright, David confesses that he was, quote, brought forth in iniquity, unquote. Now, my view of that is that we are all born into this world sinners. Let's see if I'm right. That is, he was a sinner from the moment his mother conceived him in the womb. And I guess I've always kind of viewed that verse as where it talks about we're all born into this world sinners. I was thinking from the time we, for a lack of a better way of saying it, come out of our mothers. But from the time we were conceived in the womb, we were yet sinners. I just learned something there. And you'll find that in Psalm 51 and 5. He pleads that God will wash him thoroughly from his iniquity, which is found in Psalm 51 and 2, 51 verse 2. That he will blot out all his iniquities. Plural. Psalms 51 verse 9. Since he is aware that he has committed sin upon sin. God, I thank you. You know, Brother Michael would probably be able to tell you, I've really been, in the conversations recently that I've had with him, has been about all this sin I've committed, all this stuff. I think there's an importance in saying that you've done wrong and admitting your sin. For me, it is anyway. Needless to say, David's inspired observation that he was a sinner from the moment of conception tells us when life really begins, and therefore has much to contribute to a Christian view of abortion. What does David mean when he says to God, "Purge me with hyssop," or hyssop, 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 I think is how you say it, or hyssop. In Psalm 51:7, the NIBD entry of hyssop advises us to see plants of the Bible. I figured it was some kind of a flower. I don't know. When we turn to the hyssop section of the article, we read a fascinating description of the shrub known as hyssop, and we are informed that it was employed in purification ceremonies in Old Testament times. The article also tells us that David mentioned it as an instrument of inner cleansing in Psalms 51:7. Reference to inner cleansing reveals that David uses the word hyssop in a figurative sense, since his statement could hardly mean that he ate all or part of a hyssop shrub in an attempt to cleanse himself from sin. The article on purge also mentions Psalms 51:7 and defines purge as to cast out whatever is impure or undesirable. Snow, in the same verse, is declared to be a symbol of cleansing, of purity. In the NIBD article on snow, where we are directed to Job 9:30 and Isaiah 1:18 as additional references. In addition to presenting a lengthy discussion of the Old Testament concept of salvation, the article on salvation mentions Psalm 51:14 as an example of salvation defined as deliverance from blood guiltiness and its consequences. A quick check at the rest of Psalm 51 uncovers the phrase, "the joy of your salvation." In verse 12, and the NIBD article on joy cites Psalm 21:1 and Psalm 71:23 as other references to a psalmist rejoicing over God's salvation. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up right there. That is step 4. There is 6 steps in this. I guess I'll pick up where I left off at another time. So the next one will be step 5. So thank y'all for listening. This may be pretty stupid to other people or people that's not interested in reading the Bible, but I'm finding that I know I look like crap and this ain't a very good video. There's not a I'm using the forward facing part of my iPhone, so there's no flash on the front part, but whatever, this is what I feel to do at the moment, so that's what I'm doing. And my prayer, God, is to God to bless each and every person watching this video, and hope you all have a blessed night. And I will pick up on chapter 6, not chapter 6, but step 5. Oh my Lord, I'm done skipped way ahead, hadn't I? Yeah, on step 5 and 6 tomorrow when I read again. And I don't know if I'll go any further after that, but I just wanted to share with y'all what, as I was reading it the first time, on the steps of learning how to study the Bible. So y'all take care, and thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later. God bless y'all. Good night.